Yeah, portfolio management, slightly a smaller subject with only 4 chapters, and probably some part of it we have already done as a part of our quant. Some calculations relating to mean, variance, correlation, covariance, all those things, are even the variance of a portfolio. So there are so many calculations which we have done as a part of the quant also. So more or less there is a good amount of repetition with respect to the quant. And of course, there are a couple of chapters which are more exclusive. But finally, what it is as you move towards L3, the major focus is on portfolio management itself. The final job, or probably the biggest job that can be expected out of a CFA, is portfolio management. So that's where it could be fund management, it could be various things which are more in line with managing effectively a portfolio, right? So whereas in level 1 the weightage is just 5%, slightly an introduction to the world of portfolio management and some basic calculations. Apart from that, there is nothing much, right? But yeah, one of the areas to concentrate more, because generally small weightage subjects are neglected more, right? And even calculations wise also, there is a good chance that you will end up even on the wrong side, even if couple of questions are missed out, because total number of questions wise you will get only 12, 6 and 6, 6 in the morning. And even if you are making a mistake in 5 6 questions altogether, there is a chance that you are falling into the below 50 range. So care has to be taken in terms of doing all theory as well as calculation oriented questions from this chapters. Two of them are purely theoretical in nature. The first one, which is an overview chapter, and the last one, which is portfolio base construction and execution basics, implementation of a portfolio kind of a basics. These two are fully theoretical in nature, concept base concept oriented, whereas the other two are calculating the portfolio risk and return. Right, the middle 2 chapters are finding out the portfolio risk and return. That is where we use mean or standard deviations, variances, covariances, because they are the ones which help us in finding out the mean as well as the return as well as the risk of the portfolio. The prime fundamental behind portfolio is nothing but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't invest completely in one single security. The reason being, if it, as long as, even if you choose, no, this is the best security altogether, as long as it is doing good, you will make good profit. But in one bad case, probably you'll lose very badly in that. So the portfolio management world, what it says is, try to combine 2 or more securities in such a way that your risk is reduced without too much compromising on the return, which means per unit of risk you are taking, the return is more. Probably looking at it from a Sharpe ratio standpoint, Sharpe ratio will be more, because per unit of risk which you are taking, the return is more, right? So that should be the objective of any investment. Any extra risk you are taking, unless it is compensated with a good return, there is no point in taking that kind of a risk. That is what is driving this portfolio approach, right? So you are primarily looking at reducing your risk without compromising too much on your return. And what the theory also says is, anyone who does not diversify, let's assume that the person did not create a portfolio, he has invested only in one company. What it says is, there is no much big benefit the person is going to get except for increasing in the risk. And as a common phenomenon, higher the risk, obviously it should translate into higher return. But what it says is, if you don't diversify, there is no chance of higher return. This year if you make, you are making. But next year when you are losing, So the whatever you have gained is going out in that process. So what it says is try to identify the combination in such a way that the risk directly comes down. Risk directly comes down is nothing but consistency is improved. Whatever the return I am getting, I'll get it with a guarantee. Whereas in this case, I don't know whether I'll get this much average. See, average says 15%. But I'm not sure whether I'll get 15% or not. I may get 2%, I may get 25% also. That is what we are calling as a risk associated. Now, the intention of any portfolio process is reduce your risk without compromising. The same average 15% you have to get. But let the risk or standard deviation not be 20%, make it 5%. Get the same 15% return. Instead of having a standard deviation of 20%, you try to bring the standard deviation to 5%. Then obviously lesser is the risk, but return is not much getting compromised. So obviously that combination you will prefer. If I have two securities, both of them having 15%, 15% return, one having a risk of 20%, the other having a risk of 5%. Which one would be most preferred? The one with 5% risk only. Because as long as both of them are giving me the same return, I would always prefer the one which is less risky out of the two. So portfolio always has a benefit in terms of reducing your risk without too much compromising on your return. So what it simply says is, any investment which you are looking at, any money which you are looking at investing, always look at it from a portfolio perspective rather than from a individual security investment perspective. And on this lines, Markovich has given actually a framework which simply says combining any number of securities will definitely reduce your risk. 2, 3, 4, that's the funda behind even a fund management. What does a fund manager do? 20 different stocks he invests, or 30 different stocks he invests. He could have chosen one well-performing stock and he could have invested in that. Which the high return stock, he could have invested in that. But he will get his profit when it is giving, because it's an uncertain world. He will get profit when it is good, but when it is bad, he will lose heavily also. So he cannot invest heavily in one single security. So whether it is fund managers or any kind of investors today, they look at distributing the money across. So even if I lose on 2-3 investments, 2-3 stocks, the remaining 6-7 stocks are profitable. So overall my loss is not that big. Right? So this is what is the framework, and what the modern portfolio theory, which is an enhancement to the Markovich framework, says is the return is directly proportional to your risk. As your risk keeps on increasing, the expected return keeps on increasing. But if you don't get that much of an expected return, then it is not worth investing in that. Right? The return, whatever you can expect, is a direct proportion to the market-based risk. When I say market-based risk, even if the individual security is more riskier than the market, there is no chance of generating consistently high profits on the top of that. Because it is risky, sometimes it will lose. Because it is more risky than average, it may gain sometimes, but it will then lose sometimes also. Overall, again making it as a function of the risk itself. So from that standpoint, it's always better to go with a portfolio or choose your portfolio in such a way that you will get the least possible risk. Because if I combine A and B, two different securities, If I combine in 60-40, my risk could be something. 70-30, my risk could be something else. 20-80, my risk could be something else. Now choose it in such a way that the overall risk will come down without too much compromise on the return. So in short, choose the securities in such a way that your Sharpe ratio will be much higher. Sharpe ratio is the same concept, right? The return, excess return divided by risk. Risk has to be lesser, return should be higher. So which means the Sharpe ratio has to be higher. So choose the securities in such a way that your Sharpe ratio is higher, or choose the combination portfolio in such a way that the Sharpe ratio is always higher. And how good is the portfolio? If I have to look at that, we have a calculation called diversification ratio, which is nothing but you try to find out the standard deviation of your portfolio. You try to find out the standard deviation of your portfolio. We have a formula, W1 squared sigma V1 plus W2 squared V2 plus 2W1 W2 covariance between A and B. Using that formula, you can very well find out what is the variance of the portfolio or standard deviation of the portfolio. Take the standard deviation of the portfolio and the standard deviation of the individual securities. So for A, if the standard deviation is 20%, for B it is 25%. So average standard deviation is around 22.5%. Let's say after you have made them into a portfolio, the portfolio standard deviation using that formula, let's say you have invested in 30-70 proportion. Let's say the portfolio standard deviation has come out to some 15%. So your diversification ratio is nothing but 15 by 22.5, which is almost 2 by 3, 67%. So what it means is 33% of your risk has come down because of diversification. 67% is coming out as the diversification ratio. So which means from 100%, your risk has become 67%. So 33% is the reduction in risk because of diversification. So now if the diversification ratio is much lesser, if it comes out to only 30%, it means there is a reduction of 70% in the risk because of the portfolio. Now the more I am able to reduce the risk, the more and more it is my portfolio is becoming an optimal one to use up. So that's where diversification ratio is one concept which is typically looked at in terms of evaluating which of the securities or which of the combinations are much better, right? And one major thing, we have two major points we have to consider in this case is this entire funda of correlations, risk coming down, all these things, they work only during normal economy. Like if there is a major economic change, a sudden recession coming up, sudden changes, like our 2008, a sudden crash, right? In these cases, portfolio management will not work that effectively. What is the funda behind portfolio management? If one is down, the other is going up. But when there is a major crash, all of them will go down. The regular funda is under normal scenarios. If one is going down, if I can choose in such a way that the other is going up, that forms a good portfolio for me. Those I can definitely trace those kind of securities in a normal market scenario. But if there is a drastic change in the market, major economic change, major recessions occurring, we call the concept as correlation breakdown. That negative correlation may still turn positive and both of them will start falling only. In those cases, the correlation and risk portfolio management, this framework, they will not work that effectively. And portfolio management does not necessarily say your downside is protected. It will never say that you will not incur a loss. Right? There is a difference between these two words. Right? Portfolio management is I am trying to reduce my loss. I am not saying that I will not incur a loss at all. If that's the case, we are getting assured. If there is an assurance, I don't mind investing in that any amount. Right? So it only talks about reducing the risk. Increases the chance of accuracy, but it will not say you will never make a loss. Right? Increasing the chance of accuracy need not be 100% again. From a 50% you will lead 75% into accuracy. That itself is good enough for us to make predictions. So portfolio management helps us more in terms of reducing our risk but not eliminating it completely. Now, different investors use the portfolios for different purposes. Let's say you as an investor or I as an investor, you may have a long-term need, I may have a short-term need. So based on if I have a short-term need, I'll invest in ABC securities. You have a long-term need, you invest in XYZ securities. Right? So depending on each customer's individual's different characteristics, the securities are chosen accordingly. So from that standpoint, he is trying to figure out what kind of capital requirements are there for different sets of investors. Right? So there are individual investors who invest, banks invest, whatever the deposits they got, apart from loans, they get into investment process. Right? Insurance companies invest, pension funds invest, hedge funds invest, mutual funds invest. Every different player, there are different types of investors, but they invest that money whatever they have with them, and their requirements are different. Some of them won't touch the money in the middle. Let's say we talk about an insurance company, life insurance company. Generally, a life insurance policy is taken for 10 years or 15 years. Right? And let's say only maturity benefit or a death benefit is given. So only on maturity, which means after 15 years only, they are going to do the settlement. Within this 15 years, they don't want to pay anything to the investor. So the investment which that company has to do is a long-term investment, because there is no point for investing for 1 year, 2 years, when the requirement is after 15 years. Right? For an insurance company's perspective, not from an individual standpoint. Probably if that individual dies, the payment has to be made, claim payment has to be made. But assuming the individual does not die, the payment has to be made only after 15 years. So insurance company should look at investing it for a 15-year period and maximize the returns for a minimum possible risk. Whereas if I look at a bank, we don't know any time this guy can withdraw. If at all they are using deposits. See, if they are using fixed deposits, probably they know, okay, for this guy, I have to pay only after 3 years. It's a 3-year FD. So I need to pay only after 3 years. So this 3 years, let me invest it for long term.